do be creepypasta time. I, hello, I have come with amazing gifts, and by that I mean I have once again wasted my money. Uh, I come bearing gifts. I bought this. This is the last copy of Amiibo Festival. They had it for like 19.99. I was like, sure. I am now a proud owner of the best games, the three best Nintendo games ever made. You got Amiibo Festival, you got Ultra Smash, probably gonna stream that, and we got Chibi Robo with the complete with the Amiibo on the $20, $40, and 20. Not too bad if I do say so myself. Goes right there. You go there. You go there for now. This is little Nico in the background. Say hi. And you just fell. Okay. You sit there, or you just do it lopside. Okay. There. Oh, Toon Link. There's two. Toon Link is there too. I guess. So anyway, yes, video games. Also, I think I already showed this, but so. Oh, jeez. So, as I was saying, konnichiwa, konnichiwa, and other various greetings in different languages. It is I. It is I. Just tree with come. We're we, and by we I mean I am. We're gonna do some late night creepypasta readings. We're gonna try again. Hopefully, it doesn't stop again this time because I don't know what happened there. I probably might have pressed the wrong button, even though I have nothing mapped. I don't have any hotkeys mapped to stopping stream, so I probably accidentally stopped the stream and started again. But no, we are going to read. We're gonna try again. We're gonna. I did promise I was gonna try again. You know, we're gonna read a tape from Treasure Island again. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully it doesn't. The stream doesn't stop on us. Hope that doesn't happen. And we are a go. Here we go. Oh, we are a go. We are we good? I think we're good. I'm am I good? I don't know. I'm in a decent mood at least. We're good. We're good. All right, so right here, and yes, I know. I know what you're gonna say. I know anyone who watches. I know what you're gonna. I get it. I get it. I have a lot of tabs. Okay. I know. I know. I know. I know. I know. I get it. Okay. I know. I have a lot of tabs, and I'm not using Oprah either. Let's go. Oh shit, there's game cages live. I forgot. Anyway, what was I doing again? Oh yeah. No, that's No End House. Okay. Um. Let me see. Chrome, what are you doing? What's new? Nothing's new. Nothing. Nothing is new. Chrome's never new. Chrome, why are you lying to me? That's my old channel. Well, that's my channel that I never go on. Let's go Pokemon Gold glitch, Super Mario 128, and a Pokemon Sonic.exe 2. Sure, whatever. Uh, let's let's read the funny story. All right, we're gonna read some. Now, of course, because it's technically a troll pasta, but it's still on the wiki is this? Is this the creepy was Sonic the Hedgehog creepypasta wiki? What? My brain hurts. What's going on here? Okay. Uh, why are we lagging? What's going on? What's going on? Why, why, why are we lagging? That's fucking weird. Okay. I think we're okay. I think. Hold on, let me check to make sure. Video capture device 4. No, we're okay. Yeah, no, we're okay. Yeah, no, we're okay. No drop frames. Oh god. Anyway, let's this better be a good story, otherwise I'm giving up. Okay. Sonic.exe 2, even though there's many stories called Sonic.exe 2, and but don't tell the author that, all right? In so scary I shit my pants. Okay. Uh it's whatever you say, man. It's your special day. I do not like how this is. Oh god, it's long. Okay. Fuck it. Let's read it. Sonic.exe 2. Um you know what? I'm just gonna not. We're gonna not read that. Where's Mario? Super Mario 100, the end of Pokemon. Okay. 128. Pokemon Gold glitch. Oh, okay. Um, Fuck it. Tape from Treasure Island. Let us try this again. Let's try this again. Okay. All right. Tape from a tape from Treasure Island. Oh my god, I really need to get used to that. Post number 1. Yeah. Oh, that didn't sound good. Out of here. What are you doing, buddy? Hello, all. Today, I went on an interesting trip. It took me a while to save up for the plane tickets, but it was worth it. Before I get into too much detail, I should introduce myself. Well, not really. I'm very paranoid when it comes to I'm very paranoid when it comes to the internet, and I won't disclose my real name, so just call me Delmar. I don't know what it is about that name, but I've taken a liking to it recently. Okay, let's get down to business. I recently got plane tickets to Florida and booked a stay at a small hotel near a specific location. It was worth a 6 hour plane ride for where I was going. If you haven't heard of it, I was planning to visit an abandoned Disney resort called Discovery Island. I did my research, and it was originally known as Treasure Island in the early 70s. The mystery behind the island is very intriguing to me because it was shut down suddenly in 1999. There was a lot of controversy behind the island, and it's commonly accepted that it was the reason behind the island's abandonment. I don't necessarily accept that as easy as others might. Don't get me wrong. I do believe in it, but solely because of the fact that there isn't enough information on the subject to prove it. This theory doesn't settle quite right with me. It doesn't settle quite right with me either. There's any there isn't any public transportation to the island, so I had to call up a buddy to drop me off there. It had been about it had been about a day since my arrival to Florida, and I've got all my stuff and I got all my gear ready. I brought a notebook for quick notes, a laptop for typing down documents, a vintage map of the island, which I discovered on the internet, of course, a GPS, and a geocache. If I was going to an abandoned Disney park, I was going to hide a geocache there. I was going to bring a camera, but I was going to bring a camera, but I spent all my money on the plane tickets and the hotel reservation. Man, you unfortunate soul. Ow, holding it up like this kind of sucks. So we, you are gonna go right in front. Oh my gosh. Okay, come on. Okay, you go there. You sit up there. Okay, we got this. Sorry. uh, where was I? Okay. So I'm trying to get back into creepypasta reading because I haven't done it in in heaven knows how long. Uh, I hopped onto his boat and we were off. The warm Florida, the warm Florida air, swir- the warm Florida air swerved past my temple and to the roots of my hair, relaxing me. This all went away as soon as the island entered my line of sight. I can't explain it. I can't explain it. It was a strange mixture of happiness, excitement, and dread. I couldn't explain to you why I felt dread, but I did. I also noticed the air got thicker as we reached the island. I told myself it must be the humidity, but in hindsight, that wouldn't really make much sense. The change was too quick. It wasn't gradual enough to be natural. Ignoring it, my buddy pressed on towards the island. Strange. He didn't seem to comment on the things I noticed. We arrived at the island. Finally. After all of the research, I'll finally be able to expose to the world what really happened at this mysterious island. Well, if I find anything to expose, that is. After stepping off his boat, I felt a sense of satisfaction. All my hard work had led up to this. I waved goodbye to my friend as he left me to my own devices. I looked around for any landmarks. After finding one, I figured out where I was on the map and headed off to where I thought, uh, oh my god, the most plausible places to find information were. The first place I the first place I had in mind was, of course, the information booth. I added that in. Anyway, by the looks of the entrance, this definitely was a Disney park. It was very well crafted and detailed. Most of the display looked sun damaged, a bit cracked. Some of some of it you could say looked sandblasted. Well, I guess the years of wear and tear from the unforgiving Florida weather took its toll. I continued until I reached what looked like the information booth. The sign was faded and the paint was chipping. It was hanging by a nail. It was hanging by a nail and it obscured my view of the inside. I slid out of the I slid it out of the way. Inside was a perfectly normal information booth, as expected. There was an eggshell white there was an eggshell white desk with assorted tickets on it. It even had some pamphlets mixed in. Taking the liberty of grabbing one of the pamphlets, I ran over to the nearest bench and laid it out. Also faded, also faded and water damaged, I deciphered as much of the text I could and typed it into a Word document. I noticed something funny though. I had an internet connection. Oh dear. This place was closed in the 90s. Why would there be free Wi-Fi here? Even if I could explain why there was Wi-Fi, why did I connect without my knowledge? I didn't have AutoConnect on or anything. I checked the router name and the IP. The router name was Radio Nick. It didn't it didn't display any IP. It didn't display an IP. It seemed to work fine though. My internet browser was functioning perfectly. I shrugged it off and decided to take this opportunity to do a little more research. Didn't find anything that I Oh dear. I didn't find anything that I didn't already know. I continued to copy down the contents of the pamphlet. Finishing, I packed up my laptop and continued my journey. It was starting to get dark, which was strange. It it was only 2 according to my laptop. I called up my buddy and he came and picked me up. I asked him what time it usually got dark in I asked him what time it usually got in Florida. He told me around this time of year, which was June by the way. The sun set roughly 8 to 8:30. Perplexed, I opened up my laptop to see the time was in fact 8:30. It literally said 2 o'clock 10 minutes ago. Don't freak yourself out, I told myself. It was probably just that sketchy router you connected to that messed up your time. Probably was set to the wrong time zone or something. We arrived to shore, and I took my rental car to the hotel. After typing this up, it's it's really put into perspective how weird it really was. I'll pick up on my exploration tomorrow. I have about 4 more days on my research, and I'm planning on making the best of them. We're okay. We're doing good so far. Spooky spaghetti, yes, spooky spaghetti, spooky spaghetti indeed. My nana made some spaghetti the other day, and I ate all of it, and it was delicious. Uh, thanks for coming out. By the way, also Pokemon Legends is really good. I saw you. I think you were finally able to get it. If that's the case, and awesome. The game's great. You can play with your Pokemon, and there's a lot of animation. I love it. Anyway, creepypasta. Back to the amazing creepypasta. Post number 2. That island is hiding something. Something big. I cannot think of any logical explanation of what I have witnessed today. I feel impure. That's the only word that comes to mind when describing what I feel. Something unholy has to have happened at that island, and I feel it's my duty to find out. Okay, before I get into what happened, let me level with you for a second. Here's the information I've got. Hold on, let me, man, all the dust. Stop it. What's wrong with you, man? There we go. I indeed. The information I got, yeah, it's got nothing. Anyway, yeah. Your voice is really nice, and it's oh, why? Thank you. I really appreciate that. I get that. I have as I haven't been told that in a while. Then again, it's been like a long time since I've done like voice acting and stuff. You know, been working on my mental health and stuff. Stuff like that. Anyway, uh, where was I? Yeah, thanks. It actually means a lot, honestly. All right, so let's uh let's reread that again. Post number 2. That island is hiding something. Something big. I cannot think of any log I cannot think of any logical explanation of what I have witnessed today. I feel impure. That's the only word that comes to mind when it's describing what I feel. Something unholy has to have happened on that island, and it feels like it's my duty to find out. Okay, before I get into what happened, let me level with you guys for a second. Here's the information I've got. Remember in the last post when I told you to call me Delmar? You most likely thought that was a completely random name, and in all honesty, I thought so too. Remember the name of the mysterious. Remember the name of that mystery Wi-Fi signal I was getting? Mental health. Okay, mental support. Let me know when you start dubbing for audiobook. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Oh god. Where? You might. You most likely thought that was a completely random name, and in all honesty, I thought so too. Remember the name of that mystery Wi-Fi signal I was getting? It was Radio Nick. Those two names are linked. I dug a little deeper into the story of the island and found out the original owner of the island was a man by the name of Delmar Nicholson. Was a man by the name of Delmar Nicholson. His nickname was Radio Nick. I couldn't find any records on him, but I did get some information after interviewing some locals. They said he was the reclusive type. He seemed to have a dark cloud hovering over him at all times. He was antisocial and didn't talk to anybody. I have even heard some claims that he was, get this, satanic. Freaking satanic. That's a comforting thought while I was roaming the island previously owned by a freaking Satanist. But I've heard other claims that he was a Wiccan. Other people have said he was a combination of both, or as they described it, a Wiccan that believes in the power of Satan. Interesting. Just keep that in mind when you're reading what happened to me. I had just arrived on the island. You could say I was a little uneasy, kind of on edge, armed with the new information. I still got that same feeling of dread as the day before, only this time, I felt more sad than anything. I still entered the park determined to find out about this whole Radio Nick thing. I planned my route the night before. My first stop was the Explorer's Outpost. Judging by the name, it was some sort of employees area. Uh, oh god. So I'm just making sure that I'm not pressing any random buttons so the stream suddenly stops. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. I planned my route the night before. My first stop was the Explorer's Outpost. Judging by the name, it was some sort of employee area. I couldn't find any info on it, but I was going to trust my gut. I headed up the dock and took a left. There was a building with a thatch on the roof, with a thatch roof that had splintered from storm that had splintered oh my god, that had splintered from storms since the closing. And the walls made out of various wooden sticks. Most of them snapped in half. A small sign stood out in front. Explorer's Outpost. I think I'm in the right place. Before proceeding inside, I looked up and remembered the position of the sun. I walked through what was left of the deteriorating front door into a tropical room. It had an information desk and some benches. All the ropes used from lines had fallen over, and the door leading to behind the desk was blown apart, more so than most of the room. It was as if something forced its way into the back. I proceeded with caution into the back room. There was a room with a bunch of filing cabinets inside. Most of them hung open, and half of the files were on the floor. The corner in particular was very dark, almost unnaturally dark, but something about it made me freeze. Something turned its head Something turned its head around, and its eyes reflected the light coming in the room. The eyes lunged at me. The light revealed it was a vulture. It stopped short of my face, and instead of attacking me, it hovered while waving its wings at me, as if shooing me away. I fell on my back, and the vulture landed on the ground below it. It bowed its head at me. My heart was racing a mile a minute, but that gesture made me feel safe. It looked up at me and pointed its beak towards a cabinet. It tapped its beak on the face of the cabinet. It read, "Real estate." I opened up the cab. I opened up the cabinet as the vulture watched. Only about 5 folders are present. I take them. The vulture waves its wings. "Okay, you've got my attention." It taps its beak on another cabinet. It was the employee records. I take those as well. To my surprise, I turn around for more instructions, and the vulture was gone. I didn't hear it fly away or anything. It was just gone. I wouldn't say I fled the island, though I briskly walked at a pace that you could compare to running in fear. I sat at the dock and waited for my buddy to come pick me up. When he arrived, I was so relieved. But as soon as I stepped onto the boat, this overwhelming feeling of fear and dread overcame me, and I felt really dizzy. I fell over into my buddy's arms, and he drove me home. He's a good friend. I took it easy from there. I still feel really uneasy and sad about, well, I don't know. I feel constricted for some reason, as if there's something looming over me, something that I couldn't control. Well, despite my mental condition, I'm still looking into what happened on the island. I should probably start looking through those papers. See you all soon. Post number 3. Guys, this is going to be a very short post, but this is the information I got. It perfectly correlates with what happened yesterday. I was looking through the employee records, and my suspicions have been confirmed. That Radio Nick guy was a huge Satanist. The employee the employee summary says after the island was sold to Disney Corporations, Radio Nick, we'll call him Nicholson, applied as an employee after the island construction was completed. They assumed it was because he couldn't bear to leave his beloved island. In the first couple of years, he acted normally. But in his later years, just before the closing, other employees noticed a change in his behavior. Every day, like clockwork, he walked into the jungle by the south. He walked in the jungle by the South American aviary section, not to be seen for a couple of hours. His superiors continually told him his behavior affected his workflow. This eventually led to his termination. Interestingly enough, the employee summary just abruptly ends there. But handwritten after the end of the summary was some Russian text. It took me half an hour to decipher the individual symbols, and I finally translated it online to the words Lucifer's foul game. This astonished me and left me a bit confused. All right, what are we doing? Okay. We're still running. That's good. I analyzed what it could mean, and I've come to the conclusion that this whole thing has to do with birds. The vultures were the key. I read up I've read up that in some cultures, the vulture is considered to be a symbol of good. It makes me think that these vultures are trying to protect me from something. as well as exposing the truth. I also have read that there was a controversy connected to the vultures that took place when the park was still active. Disney employees were killing vultures because they said they were endangering the avian life on this island. I think the vultures were trying to get rid of the birds because they were connected to something evil or someone by the name of Radio Nick. That's all I've got so far in terms of theories. So if any of you have any critique on my theory or any information that could help, please don't hesitate to contact me. I should also note that I used all my food money to buy a digital camera. Nothing fancy. It's actually quite cheap. I'll be sending pictures I'll be sending pictures if I can. I'll be leaving for the island soon. Wish me luck. Post number 4. Hey guys, this is Delmar's friend. I'm the one who's been I'm the one who's been boating him back and forth from the island. I have some weird news for you guys. Delmar is currently incapacitated. He's incapable of getting a post out. He's out cold on his hotel bed. He's out cold on his hotel bed right now, and he's been having night terrors. I'm worried about what he's been doing out on the. I've been worried about what he's been doing out on that island. All I really know is that he's been getting tenser every time I take him there. In the most recent ride I gave him, he tried to pass off one of those dollar store disposable digital cameras as something to use on a vacation. Uh, what do you mean my battery's running low? What the? Oh no! There we go. There we go. We good? We good? Are we good? My gosh, is my battery better? It's not showing me anything. Okay, fuck everything. All right. Anyway, where was I? Okay. Let me reread that. He's out cold on his hotel bed right now, and he's been having night terrors. I'm worried about what he's been doing out on that island. All I really know is that he's been getting tenser every time I take him there. In the most recent in the most recent ride I gave him, he tried to pass off one of those dollar store disposable digital cameras as something to use on a vacation. I let him borrow my camera, and he graciously accepted. After leaving, I was only in my house for 15 minutes before receiving a text from him. The text said, "Come now," and I raced to my car. Oh no. When I arrived at the island, I found him face down, out like a light from on the ground. After failing to wake him up, I just carried him on the boat and brought him to the hospital. The doctor said he was okay. At first, they thought he was knocked out with a concussion, but that but that they examined him, and found nothing wrong. They just prescribed some rest. So I did just that. I know this blog is important to him, so I thought it would be right if I posted something while he is unavailable. Just wanted to update you uh, who fo- just wanted to update for you who follow this blog. He should be awake by tomorrow. Oh no, we're getting more posts. Post number 5. Oh dear. Oh, Delmar, you good? I'm done. I'm done. I'm never setting foot on that island again. I just got home from Florida. I waited a while before typing this post for the sake of my sanity. Let me explain what happened. I just woke up and don't remember anything. My buddy was there and he explained what he saw happen. We talked for a while before he left because he had errands to. Oh my! Before he left, because he had errands to run. I got comfy in my bed and turned on the TV. The TV illuminated the room, and I noticed the camera that my buddy let me borrow. I guess he forgot it. I get out of the bed and pick it up, and turn it on to see if I could charge the battery. It's common courtesy. It was then it was then I noticed that there were oh my god. It was then when I noticed that there was only a couple of minutes left on the tape. He gave me oh my god. He gave me a blank tape with about 2 hours of footage on it. That means I recorded something. That's impossible though, since I had only been on the island for about half an hour. A morbid curiosity overcame a morbid curiosity oh my god, a morbid curiosity overcame me, and I decided to plug in and watch it. All right. It started out with me waving goodbye to my buddy. I began my hike through the island. The video cut to me at the at the aviary section. The video cut to me at the aviary section of the island. Keep in mind that I don't remember any of this. I was looking around for anything that might answer some questions. I headed for the maintenance area behind the bird exhibits. I closed the door behind me, being the genius I am. It was somewhat dark. It was somewhat dark in there. Light enough so you can see, but dark enough to make you feel uncomfortable. It was a room full of bags of bird seed, some ripped open and spilled onto the floor. There was a bucket. There was a bucket in the corner, from what I can see, with some scrapers next to it. Okay, interesting. Whoa, whoa, whoa! What are you doing? The hell, camera. Come on. All right, where am I? Here we are. I could only guess. I can only guess what that's for. I continued on into the I continued on into the dim room. When I find a room with a bunch of pedestals scattered on the floor, it seemed like they were ripped off. It seemed like they were ripped off my something and hate. I guess that's supposed to be, instead of my, it's supposed to be by. I think that's a typo from the author, but anyway. Um, it seemed like they were ripped off by something and hastily thrown into a back room. I put the camera on a nearby AC unit and watched myself pick one of them up. I looked surprised and a bit scared. I showed the camera the face of the pedestal. It was one of those information pedestals that taught you about the bird it was showcasing. It had an upside down pentagram burned on it. I paused the tape to clear my head, after which I continued, bracing for the worst. I picked up another one and showed this one to the camera. An upside down cross with what appears to be a crude Mickey Mouse nailed to it. I put it down slowly, but a bang made me freeze. I stood there for about 10 seconds before something made me grab the camera and run. The video cut to me walking around outside. It was dark out now. Using a flashlight to lead the way, I briskly walked through the park. It was eerily quiet. It was eerily quiet. The only sounds I could hear were heavy breathing and quiet footsteps. This continued for about 10 minutes. The video cut again. This time, I was in what appeared to be a bathroom. I was kneeling on the ground, facing the side of the stall. I was leaning on as if I was being deprived of strength. I turned around towards the camera and started to softly sob. I was feeling uneasy watching this, as I don't normally cry. After a bit of sobbing, a female sounding voice in the distance simply said, "Stop," in a firm voice. I did as she commanded. I did as she commanded. I hesitated for a bit, and without warning, I punched a hole. I punched a hole through the hard plastic stair wall and began to scream. For the video cut to a new scene. Oh, this is getting real spooky. This is getting real spooky. I am like thoroughly scared right now. I'm scared. I'm scared for my life. Uh, cut to a new scene. This time I was in a security room. All the TVs were functioning perfectly. They were all displaying different parts of the island. People were hustling and bustling around about the exhibits, exhibits and displays. The camera zoomed in on the date displayed in the corner. All I could get out of it was TH 1999. I believe it to be the date of the park closing. It showed it showed there was one man that climbed over the railing into the jungle. The security feed began to fast forward and stopped after 10 seconds of fast forwarding. What I saw next, I could not get out of my mind. All the people in all of the feeds were covering their ears and bending over in agony. Oh no. The only people that weren't were the employees, who started to show alarm. I could understand why. If everybody except me and my coworkers begin to act like that, I would panic too. They tried things from shaking the people to hitting them. Nothing got them to respond. One of the employees stood up, shouted something at the other employees, and started to run away with them, as if away from something. I soon realized what that was. What that was when a black mist when a black mist rolled over the island visitors at a surprising rate. It didn't even seem like mist, just a black mass that consumed the camera's view. I stopped the security feed and backed away to show all the TVs. Wait, what? Yeah. Just then, a soft voice spoke from behind me. Just then, a soft voice spoke from behind. "Hello, hello." The camera swerves around to see Snow White staring blankly into the camera. "Have you met Nick? Have you met Nick yet?" She undergoes a gruesome transformation. Her eye sockets turn a dark black, and veins around her eyes splintered out from the center. Her eyes turn white, and she violently cocks her head to the side with a loud crunch. Her jaw dropped and almost touched her shoulder as she let out what sounded like a scream. Oh man, I'm fucking spooky. Yeah, this is spooky. This is very spooky. Sounded like a scream. It was so loud. It was so loud it distorted the audio. She put her arm straight out in front of her and lunged for the camera before it cut again. I was wondering. I was wandering through. I was wandering through what appeared to be a plaza sort of place. I every once in a while peered into one of the displays or snack bars. Every time I would find another pentagram burnt into the ground on the inside. My silence worried me. Whispering became audible, and it was multiple voices. But it was multiple voices. My footsteps became paired with another, and so on. My walk, my walk became a brisk jog, and I stopped checking in the display. I was tempted to stop the video, but I gathered my courage and pressed on. I abruptly stopped in place. While the whispering and footsteps grew louder, I quickly turned around to find nothing. All the whispering and footsteps stopped. While the whispering, well, yeah, I let out a pained sigh of relief, or at least that's what it sounded like. I turned back around again to be greeted by Mickey Mouse. Oh, have you met Radio Nick yet? Oh God. Mickey began to violently shake. After after which his eyes explode. Oh God, I'm very scared right now. His eyes exploded, sending entrails and blood spewing out of his eye sockets. I heard a scream from an unknown voice. Halfway through the explosion, the video cuts again. It was lighter out. Blood was splattered on the camera, but only a little bit. I was sobbing again, but I was holding the camera and walking through the woods. The camera jerked forward, and I almost dropped it. The camera pointed down to the ground where an arm was sticking out of the ground, grabbing my ankle. I pulled away and pulled the rest of the body that belonged to the arm with it. It was a sickly version of Mowgli, the protagonist from the Jungle Book. He looked gray, and he strangely had more contrast than the rest of the shot. His hair had fallen out, leaving only a couple of dangling strands. I started to scream for help. I dropped the camera, showing a shot of multiple Mowglis climbing on trees. On the trees, they were all barking and yelling. My foot had just escaped the camera's view as all the Mowglis pounced onto me. Also escaping the camera's view. Also escaping the camera's view. After that, it got quiet. What time is it? Oh my gosh. 1:10. Okay. After that, it got quiet. Oh my god. The camera sat there for roughly 30 seconds. Re-entering view, I re-entering view, I stood up, picked the camera, and picked up the camera. I walked through the jungle for a while until I got to a cliff. I had to jump over the railing to get to it. I placed the camera down and walked towards the edge of the cliff, leaned over the edge, and fell. I'm done. I'm done asking questions. I'm done being curious. I'm done looking for answers. I'm done. I refuse to try and analyze anything I saw on that tape. I refuse to further explore the topic. I'm done with this blog. This will be my last post. I know this may be an anticlimactic ending, but I honestly couldn't care. I honestly couldn't care. Feel free to speculate and discuss any theories on this. Just know that I will not be answering any questions. No, I will not provide the video. I'm not wasting my time digitizing it. The only thing I will provide is this picture I found on my digital camera that I brought. Goodbye, all. I'm done. I'm done. Oh, here we are. We got that. We got that image. We got that image. Oh, what did they do to Snow White, guys? What do they? What happened to Snow White? No. Of course, this post is from 2022. That's kind of. All right. Well, that was a good story. We are in. Oh, we're 49 minutes in. Okay. I got time for one. I got time for a few more stories, probably, maybe, hopefully. No. Yes. Yes. All right. Oh, jeez. All right. So, we're doing good so far. So, what are we gonna read next? Let's read some No End House. No End House. All right. Haven't read this in like since 2018 or 2019. 2017? I don't remember. All I know is that last time I read this, I was in a server with like I was in a voice chat with like a bunch of people. Like it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, kind of like now. I want to do this again next time. You know, if I ever get the chance to. All right, No End House, or the house that has no end. When the house has no end. Let me get my creepy voice ready again. Okay, No End House. Let me start by saying that Peter Terry was addicted to heroin. We were friends in college and continued to be after I graduated. Notice that I said I. He dropped out after 2 years of barely cutting it. After I moved out of the dorms and into a small apartment, I didn't see Peter as much. We would talk online every now and then. AIM was king in pre-Facebook years. There was a period where he wasn't online for about 5 weeks straight. I wasn't worried. He was a pretty notorious flake and drug addict, so I assumed he just stopped caring. Then one night, I saw him log on, but before I could initiate a conversation, he sent me a message. David, David, man, we need to talk. That was when he told me about the No End House. It got that name because no one had ever reached the final exit. The rules were pretty simple and cliche. Reach the final room of the re, reach the final room of the building and you win $500. There were 9 rooms in all. The house was located outside the city, roughly 4 miles from my house. Apparently, Peter had tried and failed. He was a he was a heroin and he was a heroin and who knows what the fuck addict. So I figured the drugs got the best of him and he wigged out at a he okay, that's fun. And he wigged out at a paper ghost or something. He told me it would be too much for anyone, that it was unnatural. I didn't believe him. I told him I would check it out the next night, and no matter how hard he tried to convince me otherwise, $500 sounded too good to be true. I had to go. I set out the following night. When I arrived, I immediately noticed something strange about the building. Have you ever seen or read something that shouldn't be scary, but for some reason a chill crawls up your spine? I walked towards the building, and the feeling of uneasiness only intensified as I opened the front door. My heart slowed, and I let a relieved sigh leave me as I entered. The room looked like a normal hotel lobby decorated for Halloween. A sign was posted in place of a worker. It read, Room 1 this way. 8 more to follow. Reach the end and you win. I chuckled and made my way to the first door. Oh my gosh. There we go. There we go. Oh my gosh. What time is it? What time are we at? 54 minutes? Okay. The first area was almost laughable. The decor resembled the Halloween aisle of a Kmart, complete with complete with sheet goats and animatronic zombies that gave a static growl when you passed by. At the far end of the exit, it was the only at the far end at the far end was an exit. It was the only door besides the one I entered through. I brushed through the fake spider webs and headed for the second room. I was greeted by fog as I opened the door to room 2. The room definitely upped the ante in terms of technology. Not only was there a fog machine, but a bat hung from the ceiling and flew in a circle. Scary. They seemed to have a Halloween soundtrack that one would find in a 99-cent store on loop somewhere in the room. I didn't see a stereo, but I guess they must have a PA system. I stopped. Oh my gosh. I stopped over a few toy rats. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my fuck. Jeez. I stopped over a few, I stepped over a few toy rats that wheeled around and walked with a puffed chest across to the next area. I reached the doorknob and my heart sank to my I reached for the doorknob and my heart sank to my knees. I did not want to open that door. A feeling of dread hit me so hard I could barely even think. Logic overtook me after a few terrified moments, and I shook it off and entered the next room. Room 3, room 3 is when things begin to change. On the surface, it looked like a normal room. There was a chair in the middle of the wood paneled floor. A single lamp in the corner did a poor job of lighting the area, casting a few shadows across the floor and walls. That was the problem. Shadows. Plural. Oh god. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I can hold it up like this. With the exception of the chairs, there were others. I had barely walked. I had barely. I had barely walked in the door. Oh my god. I had barely walked in the door, and I was already terrified. It was at that moment that I knew something wasn't right. I didn't even think. I didn't even think as I automatically tried to open the door I came through. It was locked from the other side. That set me off. Was someone locking the doors as I progressed? There was no way. I would have heard them. Was it a mechanical lock that set automatically? But I was too scared to really think. I turned back to the room and the shadows were gone. The chair's shadow remained, but the others were gone. I slowly began to walk. I used to hallucinate. I slowly began to walk. I used to hallucinate when I was a kid, so I wrote it off. So I wrote off the shadows as a figment of my imagination. I began to feel better as I made it to the halfway point of the room. I began to feel better as I made it to the halfway point of the room. I looked down. I looked down as I took my steps, and that's when I saw it. Or didn't see it. My shadow wasn't there. I didn't have time to scream. I ran as fast as I could to the other door and flung myself without thinking into the room beyond. The fourth room was possibly the most disturbing. As I closed the door, all light seemed to be sucked out and put back into the previous room. I stood there surrounded by darkness, not able to move. I'm not afraid of the dark or never have been, but I was absolutely terrified. All sight had left me. I held my hand in front of my face, and if I didn't know what I was doing, I I would never have been able to tell. Darkness doesn't describe it. I couldn't hear anything. It was dead silence. When you're in a soundproof room, you can still hear yourself. You can still hear yourself breathing. You can hear yourself being alive. I couldn't. I began to stumble forward after a few moments. my rapidly beating heart the only thing I could feel. There was no door in sight. Wasn't even sure if there was one this time. The silence was then broken by a low hum. I felt something behind me. I spun around wildly, but I could barely even see my nose. I knew it was there, though. Regardless of how dark it was, I knew something was there. The hum grew louder, closer. It seemed to surround me, but I knew whatever was causing the noise was in front of me, inching closer. I took a step back. I took a step back. I had never felt that kind of fear. I can't really describe true fear. I wasn't even scared. I wasn't even scared I wasn't even scared I was going to die. I was scared of what the alternative was. I was afraid of what this thing had in store for me. Then the light flashed for a second and I saw it. Nothing. I saw nothing and I know I saw nothing there. The room was again plunged into darkness and the became a wild screech. I screamed in protest. Protest. I couldn't hear this. I couldn't hear this goddamn sound for another minute. I ran backwards, away from the noise, and fumbled for the door handle. I turned it. I turned and fell into room 5. Oh no! Oh dear! I turned it and fell into room 5. Oh, this is he still alive? I think he yeah, he's still alive. Okay, he's still alive. No, it's tape for Treasure Island. Oh God, what I do? What I do? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There we go. There we go. Before I describe room 5, you have to understand something. You have to understand something. I am not a drug addict. I have had no history of drug abuse or any sort of psychosis short of my childhood hallucinations I mentioned earlier. And those were only when I was really tired or just waking up. I entered the no end house with a clear head. After falling in from the previous room, my view of room 5 was from my back, looking up at the ceiling. What I saw didn't scare me, it simply surprised me. Trees had grown into the room and towered above my head. The ceilings in the room were taller than the others, which made me think I was in the center of the house. I got up I got up off the floor, dusted myself out off, and took a look around. It was definitely the biggest room of them all. I couldn't even see the room from where I was. I couldn't even see the door from where I was. Various brush and trees must have is it 1:26 a.m. Okay. Various oh my god. Various brush and trees must have blocked my line of sight with the exit. Up to this point, I figured the rooms were going to get scarier. But this was a paradise compared to the last room. I also assumed whatever I also assumed whatever was in room 4 stayed. Oh my god. Let me try that again. Up to this point, I figured the rooms were going to get scarier, but this was paradise compared to the last room. I also assumed whatever was in room 4 stayed back there. I was incredibly wrong. As I made my way deep into the room, I began to hear what one would hear if they were in a forest. Chirping bugs and the occasional flap of birds seemed to be my only company in this room. That was the last that was the thing that bothered me the most. I heard bugs and other animals, but I didn't see any of them. I began to wonder how big this house was. From the outside, when I first walked up to it, it looked like a regular house. It was definitely on the bigger side, but this was almost a this was almost a full forest in here. The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there. However high it was, I couldn't see any walls either. The only way I knew I was still inside was the what was that inside the only way I knew I was still inside was that the floor matched the other rooms. The standard dark wood paneling. Interesting. I kept walking, hoping that the next tree I passed would reveal the door. After a few moments of walking, I felt a mosquito fly into my arm. I shook it off and kept going. A second later, I felt about 10 more land on my skin at different places. I felt them crawl up and down my arms and legs, and a few made their way across my face. I flailed wildly to get them uh, all off, but they just kept crawling. I looked down and let out a muffled scream, more of a whimper, to be honest. I didn't see a single bug. Not one bug was on me, but I could feel them crawl. I heard them fly by my face and sting my skin, but I couldn't see a single one. I dropped to the ground and began to roll. I dropped to the ground and began to roll wildly. I was desperate. I hated bugs, especially ones I couldn't see or touch. But these bugs could touch me, and they were everywhere. I began to crawl. I had no idea where I was going. The entrance was nowhere in sight, and I still hadn't seen the exit. So I just crawled, my skin wriggling with the presence of those phantom bugs. After what seemed like hours, I found the door. I grabbed the nearest tree and propped myself up, mindlessly slapping my arms and legs to no avail. I tried to run, but I couldn't. My body was exhausted from crawling and dealing with whatever it was that was on me. I took a few shaky steps to the door, grabbing each tree on the way for support. It was only a few feet away when I heard it. The low hum from before. It was coming from the next room, and it was deeper. I could almost feel it inside my body, like when you stand next to an amp at a concert. The feeling of the bugs on me lessened as the hum grew louder. As I placed my hand on the doorknob, the bugs were completely gone, but I couldn't bring myself to turn the knob. I knew that if I let go, the bugs would return. The bugs would return, and there was no way I would make it back to room 4. I just stood there, my head pressed against the door marked 6. The door marked 6 and make it. Oh my god. I just stood there, my head pressed against the door marked 6 and my hand shakily grasping the knob. The hum was so loud I couldn't even hear myself pretend to think. There was nothing I could do but move on. Room 6 was next, and room 6 was hell. I closed the door behind me. I closed the door behind. I closed the door behind me. My eyes held shut and my ears ringing. The hum was surrounding me. As the door clicked into place, the hum was gone. I opened my eyes in surprise. I opened my eyes in surprise, and the door I had shut was gone. It was just a wall now. I looked around in shock. The room was identical to room 3, the same chair and lamp, but with the correct amount of shadows this time. The only real difference was that there was no exit door, and the one I came in through was gone. As I said before, I had no previous issues in terms of mental instability. But at that moment, I fell into what I now know as was insanity. I didn't scream. I didn't even make a sound. At first I scratched softly. The wall was tough, but I knew the door was there somewhere. I just knew it was. I scratched at where the doorknob was. I clawed I clawed at the wall frantically with both hands, my nails being filed down to the skin against the wood. I fell silently to my knees. The only sound the only sound in the room, the only sound in the room, the incessant scratching at the wall. I knew it was there. I knew it was there. The door was there. I just knew it was there. I know it was there. I knew if I could just get past this wall. Are you all right? I jumped off the ground and spun in one motion. I leaned against the wall behind me as I saw what it was that spoke to me. To this day, to this day, I regret ever turning around. There was a little girl. She was wearing a soft white dress that went down to her ankles. She had long blonde hair to the middle of her back and white skin and blue eyes. She was the most frightening thing I had ever seen, and I know that nothing in my life will ever be as unnerving as what I saw in her. While looking at her, I saw something else. Where she stood, I saw what looked like a man's body, only larger than normal and covered in hair. He was naked from head to toe, but his head was not human, and his toes were hooves. It wasn't the devil, but at that moment, it might as well have been. The form had the head of a ram and the snout of a wolf. It was horrifying and was synonymous with the little girl in front of me. They were the same form. I can't really describe it, but I saw them at the same time. They shared the same spot in that room, but it was like looking at two separate dimensions. When I saw the girl, I saw the form, and when I saw the form, I saw the girl. I couldn't speak. I could barely even see. My mind was revolting. My mind was revolting against what it was attempting to process. I had been scared before in my life, and had never been more scared than when I was trapped in the fourth room. But that was before room 6. I just stood there, staring at whatever it was that spoke to me. There was no there was no exit. I was trapped here with it, and then it spoke again. David, you should have listened. When it spoke, I heard the words of the little girl, but the other form spoke through my mind in a voice won't even I won't even attempt to describe. There was no other sound. The voice just kept repeating that sentence over and over in my mind, and I agreed. I didn't know what to do. I was slipping into madness, yet I couldn't take my eyes off what was in front of me. I dropped to the floor. I dropped to the floor. I thought I had passed out, but the room wouldn't let me. I just wanted it to end. I was on my side, my knees, my eyes were wide open, and that form staring down at me. Scurrying across the floor in front of me was one of the battery powered rats from the. Oh dear. Oh god, okay. Getting too excited. Let me try again. Oh my gosh. This is something else. Power rats from the second room. The house was toying with me. But for some reason, seeing that rat pulled my mind back from whatever depths it was headed, and I looked around the room. I was getting out of there. I was determined to get out of that house and live and never think about this place again. I knew this room was hell, and I wasn't ready to take up a residency. At first, it was just my eyes that moved. I searched the walls for any kind of opening. The room wasn't that big, so it didn't take long to soak up an entire layout. The demon still taunted me, the voice growing louder as the form rooted, stayed rooted where it stood. I placed my hand on the floor, lifted myself up to on our all four, uh, myself on up to all four, okay, and turned to scan the wall behind me. Then I saw something I couldn't even believe. The form was now right at my back, whispering into my mind how I shouldn't have come. I felt its breath on the back of my neck, but I refused to turn around. A large rectangle was scratched into the wood, with a small dent chipped away in the center of it. Within the center of it, right in front of my eyes, I saw the large seven I had mindlessly etched into the wall. I knew what it was. Room 7 was just beyond the wall where room 5 was moments ago. I don't know how I had done it. Maybe it was just my state of mind at the time, but I had created the door. I knew I had. In my madness, I scratched into the wall what I needed the most. An exit to the room. Room 7 was close. I knew the demon was right behind me, but for some reason it couldn't touch me. I closed my eyes and placed both hands on the large 7 in front of me. I pushed and pushed as hard as I could. The demon was now screaming in my ear. It told me I was never leaving. It should it told me that this was the end, but I wasn't going to die. I was going to live. I was going. I was going to live there in room 6 with it. I wasn't. I pushed and screamed at the top of my lungs. I knew I was going to push through the wall eventually. I clenched my eyes. I clenched my eyes shut and screamed, and the demon was gone. I was left in silence. I turned around slowly and was greeted by the room as it was when I entered. Just a chair and a lamp. I couldn't believe it, but didn't have time to well. I didn't have time to well. Too well. I turned back to the 7 and jumped back slightly. What I saw was a door. It wasn't the one I had scratched in, but a regular door with a large 7 on it. My whole body was shaking. It took me a while to turn the knob. I just stood there for a while, staring at the door. I couldn't stay in room 6. I couldn't. But if this was the only oh my god. But if this was the only room 6, I couldn't imagine but if this was only room 6, I couldn't imagine what 7 had in store. I must have stood there for an hour, just staring at the 7. Finally, with a deep breath, I twisted the knob and opened the door to room 7. All right, let me set this up. Set this up again. Ah. I stumbled through the door, mentally exhausted and physically weak. The door behind me closed, and I realized where I was. I was outside. Not outside like room 5, but actually outside. My eyes stung. I wanted to cry. I fell to my knees and tried, but I couldn't. I was finally out of that hell. I didn't even care about the prize that was promised. I turned and saw that oh god. I turned and saw that the door I went through was the entrance. I walked to my car and drove home, thinking of how nice a shower sounded. As I pulled to my house, As I pulled up to my house, I felt uneasy. The joy of leaving No End House had faded, and dread was slowly building in my stomach. I shook it off. I shook it off as oh, as residual from the house and made my way to the front door. I entered and immediately went up to my room. There on my bed was my cat, Baskerville. He was the first living thing I had seen all night, and I reached to pet him. He hissed and swiped at my hand. I recoiled in shock, as he had never acted like that. I thought, whatever, he's an old cat. I jumped in the shower and got ready for what I was expecting to be a sleepless night. After my shower, I went into the kitchen to make something to eat. I descended to the stairs and turned into my family room. What I saw would be forever burned into my mind, However, however, my parents were lying on the ground, naked and covered in blood. They were mutilated to near unidentifiable states. Their limbs were removed and placed next to their bodies, and their heads were placed on their chests, facing me. The most unsettling part was their expressions. They were smiling, as though they were happy to see me. I vomited and sobbed there in the family room. I didn't know I didn't know what had happened, but they didn't even live with me at the time. I was a mess. Then I saw it. A door that I a door that was never there before. A door with a large H scrawled on in blood. I was still in the house. I was standing in my family room, but I was in room 7. The faces of my parents smiled wider as I realized this. They weren't my parents. They couldn't be. But they looked exactly like them. The door marked 8. The door marked 8 across the room. Behind the mutilated bodies in front of me, I knew I had to move on. But at that moment, I gave up. The smiling faces tore into my mind. They grounded me. They grounded me where I stood. I vomited again and nearly collapsed. Then the hum returned. It was louder. It was louder than ever, and it filled the house and shook the walls. The hum compelled me to walk. I began to walk slowly, making my way closer to the door and the bodies. I could barely stand, let alone walk. And the closer I got to my parents, the closer I came to suicide. The walls were now shaking so hard it seemed as they were going to crumble. But still the faces smiled at me. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. I was now between the two bodies, a few feet away from the door. The dismembered hands clawed their way across the carpet towards me. All the while, the faces continued to stare. New terror washed over me as I walked faster. I didn't want to hear them speak. I didn't want the voices to match those of my parents. They began to open their mouths, and the hands were inches from my feet. In a dash of desperation, I lunged towards the door, threw it open, and slammed it behind me. Roommate. I was done. After what I had just experienced, I knew there wasn't anything else. After I was done. After what I had just experienced, I knew there wasn't anything else this fucking house could have thrown at me that I couldn't live through. There was nothing short of the fires of hell that I wasn't ready for. Unfortunately, I underestimated the abilities of the No End House. Unfortunately, things got more disturbing, more terrifying, and more unspeakable in Roommate. I still have trouble believing what I saw in Roommate. Again, the room was a carbon copy of rooms 3 and 6. But sitting there But sitting in the usually empty chair, was a man. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me. Not someone who looked like me. It was not someone who looked like me. It was David Williams. I walked closer. I had to get a better look, even though I was sure of it. He looked up at me. He looked up at me, and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please, please don't do it. Please don't hurt me. What? I asked. Who are you? I'm not going to hurt you. Yes, you are, he said, sobbing now. You're going to hurt me, and I don't want you to. He sat in the chair with his legs up and began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially since he was me, identical in every way. Listen, who are you? I was now only a few feet away from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet. Standing there, talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I would be soon. Why are you? You're. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. If you want to leave, you're going to hurt me. Why are you saying this? Just calm down, all right? Let's try and figure out this. And then I saw it. The David sitting down was wearing the same clothes as me, except for a small red patch on his shirt, embroidered with the number 9. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. Please don't. You're going to hurt me. My eyes didn't leave that small number on his chest. I knew exactly what it was. The first few doors were plain and simple, but after a while they got a little more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall, but by my own hands. 8 was marked in blood above the bodies of my parents. But 9? This number was a person. A living person. Worse still, it was a person that looked exactly like me. David? I had to ask. Yes, you're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. He can. Oh, God, not again. Oh, jeez. No. Why? Oh my gosh. I'm getting way too excited. Yeah. Let me try that again. David? David? I had to ask. Yes. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. He continued to sob and rock. He answered to David. He was me, right down to the voice. But the 9. I paced around for a few minutes while he sobbed in his chair. The room had no door, and similarly to room 6, the door I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls and floor around the chair, sticking my head underneath and seeing if anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. Below the chair was a knife. Attached was a tag that read, "To David, from management." The feeling in my stomach as I read that tag was something sinister. I wanted to throw up, and the last thing I wanted to do was remove that knife from under the chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an attic of unanswerable questions. Who put this here, and how did they get my name? Not to mention the fact that that as I knelt on the cold wood floor, I also sat in the chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was all too much to process. The house and the management had been playing with me this whole time. My thoughts, for some reason, turned to Peter and whether or not he got this far. If he did, if he met a Peter Terry sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth, I shook those thoughts out of my head. They didn't matter. I took the knife from under the chair and immediately the other David went quiet. David, he said in my voice, what do you think you're going to do? I lifted myself from the ground and clenched the knife in my hand. I'm going to get out of here. David was still, sitting in the chair, though he was very calm now. He looked up at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was going to laugh or strangle me. Slowly, he got up from the chair and stood, facing me. It was uncanny. His height and even the way he stood matched mine. I felt the rubber hilt of the knife in my hand and gripped it tighter. I don't know what I was planning to do on doing with it, but I had a feeling I was going to need it. Now, his voice was slightly deeper than my own. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to keep you here. I didn't respond. I just lunged and tackled him to the ground. I had mounted him and looked down, knife poised and ready. He looked up at me, terrified. It was like I was looking in a mirror. Then the hum returned, low and distant, though I still felt it deep in my body. David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was getting louder as I felt something inside me snap. With one motion, I slammed the knife into the patch of it on his chest and ripped down. Blackness fell onto the room and I was falling. The darkness around me was nothing I had experienced up to that point. Room 4 was dark, but it didn't come close to what was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling after a while. I felt weightless, covered in dark. Then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed, and suicidal. The sight of my parents entered my mind. I knew it wasn't real, but I had seen it, and the mind has trouble differentiating, and the mind has trouble differentiating between what is real and what isn't. The sadness only deepened. I was in room 9 for what seemed like days. The final room. Oh God. Sorry. Oh no. What? Oh, come on. Don't fall. What are you doing? The final room. And that's exactly what it was. The end. No End House had an end, and I had reached it. At that moment, I gave up. I knew I would be in that in-between state forever, accompanied by nothing but darkness. Not even the hum was there to keep me sane. I had lost all senses. I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for a taste in my mouth and found nothing. I felt disembodied and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. Room 9 was hell. Then it happened. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. At the end of the tunnel. I felt ground come up from below me, and I was standing. After a moment or two of gathering my thoughts, and senses. After a moment or two of gathering my thoughts and senses, I slowly walked towards the light. As I approached the light, it took form. It was a vertical slit down the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the door and found myself back where I started. The lobby of No End House. It was exactly how I left it. Still empty, still decorated with childish Halloween decorations. After everything that had happened that night, I was still very wary of where I was. After moments of normalcy, I looked around the I looked around the place, trying to find anything different. On the desk was a plain white envelope with my name name handwritten on it. Immensely curious, immense, immensely curious, yet still cautious. I mustered up the courage to open the envelope. Inside was a letter. Again, handwritten. David Williams. Congratulations! You have made it to the end of No End House. You have made it to the end of No End House. Let me try that. Let me try that again. David Williams. Congratulations! You have made it to the end of No End House. Please accept this prize as a token of great achievement. Yours forever, Management. With the letter were 5 $100 bills. I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for what seemed like hours. I laughed as I walked out to my car, and I laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled into my driveway. I laughed as I opened my front door to my house. And I laughed as I saw the small 10 etched into the wood. Well, that was a story. That was really good. I haven't read that in a while. Please forgive me if I stuttered a lot. What was that? What did I do? All right. I'm losing my voice. Oh no, I'm losing my voice. Still one viewer. Oh my gosh, Luck, are you still watching? Oh my gosh. To the one person that I'm gonna go take a nap. To the one person, Luck, that being you, that stayed to listen to me read Creepypasta. Thank you very much for hearing me read the stuff. I'm losing my voice. I need water right now. I also need sleep. Tomorrow I'm gonna have some more time. Gonna probably stream a game, then do this again on, well, technically Sunday leading into Monday midnight. I'm probably gonna try and read what was it? I'm gonna try and read that again. Whatever. I'm gonna read some more. But I'll also read these and upload them to my YouTube channel, my normal one. But with that said, thank you for watching. That wasn't a sentence. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in, and tomorrow will be probably one. There's going to be technically 2 streams, because I work 11 to 5, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I'll get home, maybe wash my face a bit, do a stream, probably do some more Legends Arceus, and later that night, I will either play some Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric or some random game, and then that midnight. So there's going to technically be 3 streams. Then that midnight leading into Monday, I'm going to read some more creepypastas. So there's a little game plan. I guess I'm really liking streaming so far. This is really good. I like it. I love it. It's helping me doing this also. It's helping me articulate because I used to be really good with articulate, but like ever since my mental health kind of went like downhill, so I've been trying to. It hasn't been the best, so I've been trying to like you know. So anyway, thank you very much, and have a good night.